Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 118 of the Seezus Show. It's your boy. I'm back. I hope you guys enjoyed last week's episode 117. And just to rehash with you guys, that was with Terrence Whaley, the co-founder, the owner of Barter, which is a Black-owned sneaker trading app as well, too. It's going to hit stores September 1st. So you guys definitely go to the App Store, try out the beta trial, and after that, give them some feedback and just get ready to rock and roll with that as well, too. So we had some great content to talk about, his top 5 J's, why he got into Barter, updates on the app, and then we just had, a couple topics to talk about, Katie Saga and much, much more. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Like I said, subscribe on all channels, YouTube, Instagram, we have Spotify, we have Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff as well, too. So this week, we're going to keep it the same, but with a new guest as well, too. So this guy, I actually met him during the playoffs, and we met at this one spot in K-Town, if I remember correctly. It was called Lace's Shoe Bar. So I just like, we're like in this group chat, and some dude gets added, and he's like, "Hey, I'm Grayson." I was like, "Who the fuck is Grayson?" And then he pulls up. I'm like, "Yo, I thought I was the tallest person because no matter where I go, I'm always the motherfucking tallest person." So I see this like 6'7" dude towering over us and whatnot. And I was like, "Is this Tyrese Halliburton?" But met him. We got to talk. We got to chop it up and whatnot as well too. Good energy and whatnot. So this guy, former Division I basketball player at was it Utah State University, played D1 over there as well too, and then also he is a co-founder of Next Level 435 AAU in training. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for my boy Grayson Moore.
I appreciate you guys having us on. I'm excited to get back. It's been a minute since I've done a podcast, so excited to share something with you guys. Hopefully, you can take something away, share my story a little bit, and just talk about hoops.
Oh, for sure, man. So one of the things that kind of stood out to me was, obviously you hoop and you're tall as shit, but you're one of my only friends that are kind of from, I guess, would you count Utah as like the Midwest?
Yeah,
sort of.
Yeah, I'd consider it Midwest.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Utah's pretty interesting. So for my job, for my 9 to 5, I do like some talent sourcing and whatnot. Yeah. So they took us on a retreat to Park City, Utah.
Okay.
Mid July.
Yeah.
So we're there for like 4 days. We went to like Olympic Park. And then we went to do like river water rafting and whatnot.
Yeah.
But like once I landed, first and foremost, you guys' airport is top tier. I like it. I think it's pretty efficient. It's a little weird with the whole like check-in part and whatnot when you go through TSA. But other than that, it's pretty big, pretty spacious. Doesn't really take too long. And the sights are beautiful. Like I was like, I'm also into film and whatnot as well too. I envision myself like shooting something over there and whatnot as well too. So good energy over there. And I made a joke to one of my friends. I was like, I don't really use these dating apps like that, but I went on Hinge, right? And I was like, let me just be curious and put like a 10-mile radius of, black people that are there, black women that are there. I saw one black girl.
I was going to say you got 5, but yeah.
I saw one. And I hit X and it was like, oh, well, you have to increase the mile radius. And when I was like, oh, okay, this is the type of time we're on. But other than that, I had a great time and whatnot. So my question for you is, how was it growing up in Utah, man?
Yeah, something I get asked a lot, when I was going through it, didn't think about it too much. But just kind of, looking back, reflecting on it, it was kind of just, when you're kids, you're just kids. Everyone's kids. You got friends up the street. You got friends who play sports with you. I guess the first time you really noticed anything different was probably like around 12 or 13 years old. Showed up for school the first day.
Yeah.
And, kids are like, "Hey, where's your ring?" And I'm like, what ring? What are you talking about? And they're like, "Oh, these rings on our fingers, we all have them at CTR." And I'm like, I'm confused. I don't know what CTR is. And, now there's 8 kids in my class standing around me like, "Whoa, you don't have one of these?" And so come to find out, they're like, "What ward are you in? What church do you go to?" And I'm like, I go to a Baptist church. And they're all looking at me like, what is a Baptist church? So long story short, CTR was like choose the right ring, something they get from like the LDS or the Mormon religion there. And that was kind of the first time when, to me, I was an outsider. And then, kind of just after that, once you kind of notice that and you kind of get pinned as the outsider, then you start noticing things. You stop getting invited to things with people that you thought were your friends. sports teams. My dad coached us all growing up to high school. And then, then you get in high school and you start realizing like, hey, we're having a, little get together after the thing, or you hear about it the next day and you're like, hey, damn, it didn't even get, it didn't get my invite. So just, kind of just that outsider feeling. And then, once you get to, high school age, it's like, then you're looking around and you start realizing like who you are and you're like, wow, I think I'm maybe one of 4 people of color in this whole school, and that's kind of when it starts to show then. So, that would be kind of what Utah was. It was just a whole kind of slap in the face for a while, big adjustment. But, just adversity, kind of going through that at a young age, different adversity, right? It's a safe place to grow up, but just being like really trying to find like your actual friends in high school, or just having like everything set out and then it just flips. It's a little different there, but it was cool.
Yeah, that's something like I really never like sit down and think about, just like being biracial and growing up in a place like that as well too, and just trying to have that sense of belongingness and whatnot as well too. But glad that you were able to kind of defy the odds, and obviously with basketball, that's one of the few things that kind of brings people together as well too. So that's pretty dope. So, do you ever see yourself settling back down there, or are you pretty much out of it? Is their family still there? Or?
Yeah, so family's still there. My mom, my dad are there. My younger brother. So, and then we'll talk about it a little bit, but AAU and basketball training started that there. So that whole thing is still going on, is actually growing pretty quickly. But for me, long term, man, I don't think I could do Logan, where I'm from, northern Utah. It's beautiful. Utah State University is right there, but it's such a college town. And then you have so it's like college students and then older people, or people with families. And it's like, man, if I was going to settle down in Utah, it'd have to be like Salt Lake area, or southern Utah.
Interesting. Yeah. I want to visit Salt Lake eventually. Yeah. I heard it's nice though.
It is nice. And it's growing a lot, and it's actually it's pretty diverse. Got a big LGBTQT community there, which is funny that it's in Utah right there. It's actually number 2 after San Francisco.
Oh, wow. Wow. Interesting. So you heard that. If you're part of that group, definitely go over there.
Take a trip.
It's a lot of land. So tell me about, your stint playing D1 at Utah State University as well too. Yeah. You played some pretty good teams as well. I think one of them that stood out to me was Duke. And you actually played Air Force. My cousin actually played at Air Force too, but he played after you. His name's Purvis Louder. Okay. He actually stays out here too. You guys need to meet each other. But how was, playing D1 and whatnot? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so my experience is a little different. So I'm 6'7" now. Out of high school, I was maybe 6'2". Oh, wow. So I grew 5 inches after. So it took me kind of a road to get there. I went junior college for a year, and then Division II at Northwest Nazarene University for 2 years, and then played just my senior year at Utah State. I was there for 3 years total. Had to sit out a year. That was back when if you transferred, you had to sit out. Oh, I say back when, that was forever ago. It was 5 years ago. But there was that rule, so I had to sit out a year, redshirt that year, and then played my senior year. But it was cool. It was biggest thing about it was a dream come true for my dad. Had actually played at Utah State University.
Oh, wow.
We grew up right there in Logan, so going to all the home games, every game, whether it's -5 degrees outside, it's snowing, we're going to these games. And just watching that growing up, and it used to be me and my brother just sitting there with my dad. And our goal was okay, our dad played here. He's on the Hall of Fame team. Me and my brother, we got to get there. We looked at the Morris twins at Kansas, and we're like, okay, if they can do it, why can't we do it? So, first and foremost, huge childhood goal, and then be able to suit up with my brother at Utah State. That was huge. And then just following kind of the family footsteps too. So just kind of cement the legacy. My brother was there before me, and so I was like, dang, I got to somehow get back to Utah State. Made it happen. So it was great.
That's dope. So what position did you play?
Yeah, kind of everything, honestly. Jack of all trades. I would say my natural position is more of probably a 3. 3, probably a 2. I was shorter growing up, so I played point guard all through high school. Wow. And was just a shooter. It didn't actually happen until I started maturing into college, where I was oh, I can shoot, and now I'm growing a little bit, and I also dunk on people too. Yeah. So that never thought I'd be doing that. Kind of hit a growth spurt freshman year in my junior college, and then that's when I realized oh, it's trouble if you jump with me at the rim. And I don't say it cocky, but it's hey, people that have played with me know that if you jump with me at the rim, it's probably not good.
Damn, that's crazy. That's crazy. Any game that you remember the most?
Yeah,
that stands out to you the most?
Yeah, New Mexico at New Mexico in the pit. First of all, just their court is really cool, really well lit court. And then when you look up from the court up in the stands, you can't see anything.
Oh wow!
It's like Staples Center, you know how
Staples
it's like
Center,
really bright and then
yeah.
dark everywhere. It was like that. And so you're in college, you're like, dang, and fans are going crazy, so you can hear them, but you can't see them. We were just getting absolutely just smashed from the beginning. It was like, I think we took a timeout. It was 23-6. But I just remember that game. I had 2 putback dunks. So 2 nasty putback dunks. And it was like the first game I started at the 2.
Yeah.
Before that, my coach was like trying to play me at like a 4 or 5, which super undersized for 5. For the 4, I could shoot, but
yeah.
you know, it was not. I'm not a 4 either. And so he started me at the 2. He's like, hey, you can actually defend that position, shoot, and handle the ball. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I've done forever. But it took him a little bit to catch on. But started there, had a couple putback dunks. Just played a good game overall. I think I had 10 and 10, so it was just double right there.
Okay, cool. So for anyone that's, you know, in middle school or in high school right now and, you know, has dreams of trying to get to that next level, what's your message for them?
Man, just work. Just work. You know, we started a basketball training thing, and the biggest thing we realized is a lot of guys want to play college basketball or say they want to play college basketball. And then we're over here, and we got training with them, you know, once, twice a week, and we can't get them in the gym for those 2 times a week trainings. You know, especially now, game skill levels gone crazy in the last 5 years too. It's like if you're not in the gym every day, at least doing something every day. Like, hey, there's such things as rest days, but those rest days should just be 1,000 jump shots. Yeah. You know what I mean? Ball handling, stuff like that. And I just think the biggest thing that separates people now is work. And what people don't realize is like putting that work in the gym when no one's there allows you to obviously shine in the games. People say it all the time, but people think, hey, I'm a game player. It's like, okay, that might work for you through high school. Once you get to college, you know, you're going to get slapped in the face because these guys are better. These guys are better than you. You're going in as a freshman. They're all better than you or know more than you, you know.
It's crazy because I feel like you had some of the advantage, right? Because I feel like your dad built the structure for you early on as well, too. Yeah. So when you're a kid, you're a sponge, so you're soaking all that in. So I feel like it's second nature for you not only to put that time, energy, and effort into not only basketball growing up, but just with anything you kind of want to do in your life as well, too.
Yeah. That was huge. My dad was a little older when he had us as kids, so we didn't get a chance to watch him play growing up. Wish we did, but from a young age, it was just like, hey, whatever you guys want. Like, he was like, I don't care if it's basketball. I don't care if it's a musical instrument, just school and your career. Like, you just got to work your ass off at it. And he's like, I'm not sugarcoating it. You know, it is what it is. If you guys tell me you want to be great at something, I'm going to push you. And if it's too much, you know, tell me. So we were lucky with that. You know, you get the dad, sometimes it's like overboard with like, I'm going to drill you like you're playing basketball and no choice. You know, my dad was like, hey, whatever you guys want to do, I'm going to push you in that, help you, you know, achieve your potential, but try not to be too much. So shout out to my dad on that.
Shout out to the fathers.
Yeah, shout out to Jimmy Moore.
Jimmy Moore. All right, cool. So tell us a little bit about Next Level 435. I'm so sorry. Next Level 435. You're the co-founder of that. So give us a little summary overview about that.
Yeah, so Next Level Basketball, we put 435 just because if you look it up, there's a lot of next level stuff. So Next Level 435 is the area code for Logan, Utah. And kind of the reason we started that is I kind of started training kids when my brother was playing. I was doing my master's, finishing my master's degree, and just wanted to be on a court. You know, I was supposed to be a grad assistant, didn't work out that way, so I just started training some high school kids, just working on them with skill work. I was like, hey, you know, I just went from trying to play professionals, working out, so let me be able to hand these kids something. You know, they can be learning this in high school when I didn't learn it until I'm 19. You know, that's kind of how it started. But just started training kids there, and then once my brother was done playing basketball, he's got a whole long story too. He, you know, got picked up by the Bucks for a little bit, did a summer league thing and everything. But he came back, and we were like, "Hey, we both love basketball. We're both from Logan, Utah. Neither of us were like recruited like that. Like we should have been recruited. Didn't have anyone talking to us. How do we help kids that are from northern Utah, southern Idaho, this kind of whole area, get to play college basketball, even if it's a junior college, even if it's a D2, D3. There's a lot of kids here that should be playing, you know, college basketball or have the opportunities and get their name out there. They just don't know how. So we were like, hey, we could start training these kids, and then it evolved to we're going to train these kids. And what the training too is like detail. You know, we had kids coming in mad, like, hey, come back here, do it again. They're like, what do you mean? I just did it. Yeah, but you didn't do it right. Like, we're doing it right. To the point where at first we had kids mad, you know. But then, you know, working with us a couple months, they're coming back and they're like, hey, I had my game on Saturday. You know, I had 20 points, or I did this move that we worked on in here. And if you wouldn't have made me do it perfect, it wouldn't have worked. And I'm like, yeah, that's why we're, you know, telling you to do it like that. But yeah, started as training, kind of turned into like mentoring. We had a couple of kids pretty early on that were training with us, helped them get placed. A kid named Sam Phipps, he'll be at CSI, College of Southern Idaho. So he was kind of a kid that fell in our lap, and we saw him hooping for the first time. We're like, it's like a baby Giannis. Like, he's not that tall. He's probably like 6'6", 6'7", long, lanky, freak athlete. When we started working out with him, pretty raw, but just evolved over the time to where he went from playing his sophomore year, no varsity, to his junior year playing varsity and winning state championship, winning MVP of 4A. So just, you know, but he's a kid. He put that work in, you know, so can't take anything away from him. He was in the gym. There was some times where we're like, Sam, where you at? Get over here, you know, but he made it. And so he just got back from a mission. He's going to go play at CSI this next coming year, but went from training to mentorship. And then eventually we had so many people training with us that were like, parents were coming to us like, hey, you guys need to coach teams. Like, our kids want to play for you. You know, there was other options, but they're like, no one else is Jalen and Grayson Moore.
Facts.
So that's kind of how it turned into the AAU approach too. We were like, you know what, let's give it a try. And, you know, I've been in Arizona for the last couple of years before I came out here. So I haven't been able to be as hands-on with the AAU side. I've just kind of helped from afar and kind of helped with structure and stuff like that. But yeah, my brother and my dad have basically ran the AAU program for 2 years now.
Okay, I was about to ask you. Okay,
2 years, and cool thing is, second year, going into our second year, we were already sponsored by Next Level. I mean, sorry, New Balance.
New Balance. Okay.
Yeah, so jerseys are all New Balance. Everyone's got basketball. They all get free New Balance shoes.
Get those Kawhis.
Yeah, the Kawhis. they're a good shoe too. And yeah, I was surprised. We all got a bunch of New Balance. Me and my brother are rocking New Balance all over now too. And people are like, "What are you doing?" We're like, "Hey, we're sponsored."
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Exactly. Who cares what anyone else thinks? So, what's the age group for them?
Yeah. So right now, I think it's 13 through 17U for boys and girls.
Yeah.
And the girls teams are slept on. They go to tournaments and win.
Yeah.
And we got a girl on their team right now, Marin McKenna. She's everyone's looking at her like San Francisco and stuff. She's another girl who went from no one talking to her, just putting in the work all the time and showing out. Like, I mean, she puts up like 20-point triple doubles, and she's gonna go play D1 at a high level. So,
damn, that's dope. So you guys heard it here, man. You have to put that time, energy, and effort in, no matter how hard it is. The moments when you're uncomfortable, that's when you have to kind of just force yourself to just do it as well too. So literally, you have someone who exemplifies that. So that's awesome, man. So look in that camera right over there and tell us your Instagram, and then also the Next Level Instagram as well too.
Okay. Yeah, so my Instagram's at Saygray, which is SAYYGRAY, and then the Instagram for Next Level AAU is at Next Level 435, and that's at Next Level 435.
Okay. So let's get into some of these topics for today. So Oklahoma City Thunder's rookie Chet Holmgren is undergoing tests for a possible right foot injury suffered in a Pro AN game that he suffered last week Saturday in Seattle. I think it was through Jamal Crawford's program as well too. So there's a quote from a spokesman told from ESPN, Chet is in the process of undergoing evaluation, and when we have an update, we will communicate. And basically with Holmgren, who's obviously the number two pick in this year's draft, he suffered an injury early in the crossover Pro AM while defending LeBron James on a fast break as well too. So there's fear that he may be sitting out for the season. My question that I have for you, and I didn't even figure out till earlier this day, you guys basically had the same injury. So tell us about the injury, and then tell us about your thoughts on, him in general.
Quick injury overview. I know a lot of people are probably seeing Liz Frank and like, what the hell is that? It's first of all, it's named Liz Frank after like a French general.
Wow.
I guess how the injury why it's named that is he was riding his horse, feet in the stirrups, and when he fell, he tried to hop off of his horse, and his foot was stuck in the stirrups. So when he turned, it like turned his foot, so collapsed his arch basically. So that was General Liz Frank. That's what Wikipedia says. So don't quote me on that. It sounds right, and it's got the name matches up. But so that's basically what the injury is. A lot of times how it happens is if people get their if you jump from high and land weird on the toe, like on the ball of your foot.
Okay.
And all the weight just hits like in a weird spot. Or what most commonly happens is if someone gets their foot ran over by a car. So you could imagine like, your arch is here and it gets flattened, and it basically what happens is all these tendons in the bottom and that joint where all like your metatarsals, like your foot bones meet, gets flattened in it, so it tears the ligaments under, and that joint can have little fractures and stuff happen. There's like 17 bones right in there, so and I know that a little bit because I was exercise science major, so
yeah.
I'll nerd out a little bit. But what ends up happening is you weaken that joint, and so when you step, your arch is collapsing basically, so you can't push off your foot or anything like that. So if you noticed in that video, when Chet lands, it kind of just lands normal, but then he pulls his left leg up, or whichever leg it was, like he's grabbing it, like kind of like a shock, and then he goes to step on it, like to run it off, because it's a pain, but it's not anything crazy. But then when you go to run, you go to put weight on it, and your foot just kind of collapses.
Yeah.
I remember the feeling when I did it. I just I did a reverse layup, like something I've probably done how many times. And this is at Utah State.
Yeah.
My redshirt year. Just did a reverse layup, made the layup, go to run back down the court, and kind of landed weird. Go to run, and I'm at half court, and I'm like, sub, and I went over to the trainer, and he kind of tested my foot and was like, oh man, this might be if this is what I think it is, it's not good. I got diagnosed as Liz Frank. I had a slight fracture in there too, and tore a bunch of the ligaments. Basically, the ligament that goes from your big toe all the way to like your heel kind of like wraps there.
Oh fuck.
So you literally can't flex your foot. It's hard to get any flexibility in your toes. So prayers up for Chet. It's a rough injury. You can do surgery, or you can just let it heal naturally. But it's about a year-long process.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, how is that recovery process, and did you do surgery, or you let it kind of heal on its own?
Yeah, I opted not to do surgery. They were like, living in Utah, it gets cold, it's freezing in the winter, and they were like, if you wake up and it's freezing out there, your foot's gonna be like stiff. It's hard to get it mobile and like get it moving. So I had to sit out that year anyways. So for me, with where Chet's lucky, he can sit out and get paid, but I had to sit out that year anyways, and so I was like, hey, let's just do this, not with surgery. I try to opt for no surgery every time I can, and just rode it out. It was on the scooter, foot in a big boot for probably 3 months before I even walked on it, probably 3 months. So, and even after that, it was like we'd get a checkup, it's like not ready to walk yet. So it was something where I probably didn't run until 7 months after I did it. So it's a pretty crazy injury.
Yeah. So you think for him, he's probably going to be out for the entirety of the season?
Yeah, and I think that they shouldn't even try to bring him back. Just tank and get a good pick again.
See, I the thing is they're going to take again. That's just so nasty having play like Shy there, and you're probably going to get like a top 2 pick again. Yeah. But what's that one guy they call him like the next Giannis that's over in France?
Victor Wembanyama.
I want him on the fucking Spurs. I don't want him to go
on the Lakers, and that's impossible.
I don't want him to go to OKC. They made jokes like, how David Robinson got injured and then Tim Duncan came the year after. Yeah. So on Twitter they were having the guy that we're talking about from France and Chet basically winning the championship next year and whatnot as well too. But that's going to be interesting to see what happens as well too. So I kind of wanted to dive into another question. What's your opinion on players playing in these leagues from like an owner standpoint as well too? Are you kind of for it? I mean, injuries are a part of the game as well too, and I feel like he's kind of an anomaly. But like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's cool from the standpoint of they're getting in front of fans that probably couldn't see them if they were playing a game, right? It gives people an opportunity to see them, just play the game they love, put on a show for the fans. I mean, everyone loves it. You saw how much social media was blowing up, like, hey, LeBron's in the Drew League again. That was since the first time since the lockout. So that's huge. From an owner standpoint, I guess we can't say owner anymore, right? It's like a governor or something, right?
Yeah.
But from that standpoint, like a business standpoint, I think it's scary for them. I mean, obviously they have a clause that says certain ones they can play in. I kind of look at it like as a player, like it's your that's what you do to make money. So like you have to kind of protect yourself too. And the season's long. You just played playoffs for some of these guys have been playing all summer. Take the time to probably rest your body. I think most people like, hey, it was cool to see LeBron there, but I think most people would rather have him healthy to play in the regular season for the Lakers rather than a Pro-Am game.
Yeah. I feel like if I'm an owner,
yeah,
I'm just gonna trust you as well too, because like you said, like you got players like Giannis and Luka and what's his guy's name, Jokic, who like play for their national team all year round as well too. So that's a tough one, especially if it's your top asset. At least from like the transition from being a college student to a rookie year, I kind of hold off on that as well too.
Yeah,
but it's like you try to get your runs in. You're working on your moves constantly, so you want to test all that out. You want to stay in shape. So like, how do you even kind of go around that.
Yeah, I think that the college to the rookie year jump is every time you jump a level, right, there's a kind of like a shock.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, crap, these guys are good. These guys are fast. These guys are stronger. And then not only do you have that mental shock and, like, you kind of have to build your body to be able to withstand that. I know when I went from a D2 to even D1, it was like, oh, I got there at like 6'7", 185 pounds. And they were like, what the hell? We got to get you to 220. So for
I wish I can get to fucking 185.
I have the hardest time gaining weight. I'm trying to bulk up right now too, and it's rough. But so what I'm saying with that is you go into a different type of training. You're trying to, let's say, Chet Holmgren, you're trying to bulk your body and like build to where you can withstand a whole season. So I think that just kind of going into that new type of training, that new mentality and all that would be a lot to also then step into this. I think your body would just be a little more vulnerable going into your rookie year. And you kind of see it a lot. Like Blake Griffin had a big jersey, Julius Randle, Ben Simmons. And you see that a lot because these guys went from, first of all, to college, shorter season, but they beat you up. Like, I mean, you were in there with like a 3-hour practice, and then you're in a 2-hour weight session. And then you might go back for another weight session later too, like in the day or so. Like, NBA, like, that's your job, so like everything revolves around basketball, and there's trainers and nutritionists and everything there to help keep you healthy too. College has that somewhat, but you still got to go to school. You still got to. So like, are these kids like really, eating the right stuff, getting the amount of rest they need, getting the recovery they need, and then you just kind of like jump into like something. So it's a little bit of transition there.
Yeah. Do you see him eventually putting on at least an additional like 15, 20 pounds? I think he's like 180 right now, right?
Yeah, I think he has to. I think he will. Brandon Ingram did too eventually.
Facts.
Kevin Durant a little bit, since when he came in. They're just skinny builds in general. They're basketball builds, but yeah, they'll get it with age too.
Yeah. All right. Well, prayers out to Chet. I really want to see you this year as well too. Hopefully OKC doesn't tank too much, as long as I can get that French prospect to the Spurs. That's all that matters. Moving on from that, obviously you guys heard KD making some breaking news. Obviously he's been making breaking news all summer long when he announced that he wanted to get traded. Twitter atmosphere, all the social media, sports atmosphere, NBA Twitter, everyone kind of went crazy with that as well too. So apparently the Nets general manager Sean Marks, the owner Joe Tsai, and also Clara Wusai, they all met with KD in Los Angeles the other day as well too. So Marks basically said in a statement, we have agreed to move forward with our partnership. We are focusing on basketball, one collective goal in mind, build a lasting franchise to bring a championship to Brooklyn as well too. So like I said earlier, KD initially asked for a trade on June 30th and reiterated his desire to meet with Joe Tsai in London earlier this month. And sources confirmed to ESPN during the meeting, Durant wanted Tsai to choose between him and the brain trust of Steve Nash and Sean Marks as well too. So it looks like Steve Nash is going to stay there. Marks is going to stay there. Kevin Durant has 4 years left on his contract, making almost $200 million, which is crazy. But what are your thoughts on, after all this transpiring, now we finally get a sense of clarity on him staying this year?
Yeah. Man, I had all the Lakers pipe dreams going between. I wanted him or Kyrie, like somehow get him there. Help LeBron with another chip, and just, we're going to be in a bad spot after LeBron leaves. So from a Lakers standpoint, sad, but just a basketball fan standpoint, I'm happy that he's staying. Hopefully Kyrie stays at this point, and Ben Simmons healthy. I want to see what they look like. Since that team with James Harden was there before, everyone's like, hey, what does this look like? And we haven't had a chance to see what that looks like with everyone healthy, with everyone playing. So hopefully they can just stay healthy for the season, run it back. They wanted Steve Nash there, so hopefully he can coach a little bit, hopefully build their trust back, say something on the sidelines rather than stand there with that look. But yeah, I want to see what they can do. I want to see if they can make some noise in the East and maybe make a run at a ship.
Yeah, for sure. So I think I agree with you. I want them to be successful as well too. And obviously it could be one of those things where, he's playing and then we look up, it's the NBA, trade deadline, and maybe he does get traded and whatnot as well too. Do you think there could be a possibility where he gets traded by then, him and Kyrie? Because Kyrie's expiring contract. So if you lose him next year, if you don't re-sign him, you're losing him for nothing. And obviously with KD, he seems unhappy to an extent. But I think in the grand scheme of things, he literally just wanted Kyrie to get re-signed. That's why he was kind of acting out and whatnot as well, too. Because the GM actually did a great job of putting talent around them. So I'm just like, you're a top dog, Kyrie's a top dog, and you got Ben Simmons. With those role players, you guys can make a deep run. So do you see something where they actually make it work, or there may be a trade looming in the future?
I think right now, I think this was probably the worst it's going to get in terms of everyone like, I want to be traded. Like Kyrie is like, I want out. Kevin Durant wanted out. Who knows what Ben Simmons is doing? I don't even know if he plays basketball anymore. I'm kidding. But yeah, no, I think I could work it out. I think the biggest thing is Kevin Durant doesn't want to get stuck for a third year in a row, putting the whole team on his back when it comes down to crunch time. I mean, you see kind of the toll that it takes. I mean, LeBron's able to do it, but LeBron's LeBron. You know, I think Kevin Durant, great player, one of the best offensively, probably the best offensive player in the league right now. But I just think he's like, hey, when it comes down to it, we don't have the defense we needed. We didn't have the role players like you said they do now. And I think that they have two other stars alongside him. I think he's like, hey, I'm ready for that, but I want everyone committed. It's either everyone committed or I'm out kind of thing. So
yeah, he's about to be 34. You know, got by the time he'll eventually catch up and whatnot. So we'll see what happens. So I guess my last question before we leave this topic is, I mean, obviously they're gonna have to find a way to gel. Like it's gonna take some time, and I kind of resort always back to Miami's big three, how they kind of start off with like 9-11, and they finally took that stride and whatnot. How do you see the Nets panning out this season, and what do you think their ceiling is?
Man, I see them probably, just because of the chemistry. I think Ben Simmons actually fits good. When they first traded James Harden for Ben Simmons, I was hoping they got a healthy Ben Simmons so we could see him play.
Facts.
I just thought, Kyrie's at his best when he's scoring. Kevin Durant's at his best when he's scoring. If these guys have to be the facilitators too, you're taking away their best talent. So getting a guy like Ben Simmons who's going to play defense on the other end at a high level, and he's going to go down and doesn't care about scoring. I mean, he's passing up layups, but if he's passing to Kyrie and KD, it's different than passing out to who'd he pass to? Thibault.
Yeah.
So it's a little different there. They're probably gonna make the shots, and I think that leads to KD having more big games. I mean, he's had a lot of big games. He's gonna have big games, but if he doesn't have to worry about bringing the ball up under pressure, and he can just go get his spot in the post, get his fadeaways going, and Kyrie can just run spot up, more catch and shoot for him, as well as obviously taking off the pick and roll. And then what I want to see too is Kyrie with the ball and Ben Simmons setting pick and rolls. I think that could be deadly. I mean, he's rolling. He's either going to dunk it or find someone. So
yeah. So you think Ben Simmons is going to play a combination of like that, the 5 and I guess the point guard position?
Point forward.
Point
guard and some like 4.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be interesting. I can't wait till he gets back as well too. So some other breaking news is that goon, Patrick Beverley, got traded to your Los Angeles Lakers for Talen Horton-Tucker. What are your thoughts on that? I thought that it was a great trade, but I kind of want to hear from you first. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good trade. I mean, at this point, the Lakers wanted to invest in Horton-Tucker, but they just don't have the time right now. You're trying to win. LeBron's, 36, 37?
37.
And he's still playing great, so you got to try to capitalize on that. The biggest thing they didn't have last year was any energy. No defense, no energy, so Patrick Beverley brings both of those things, and like leadership too. I think Russell Westbrook's a guy that's going to go lead by example. He plays hard every game, no question about that. But is he able to like rally the troops? You know what I mean? Is he able to go to Austin Reeves and get him to go? And LeBron's kind of the same way. He's going to lead by example. But you don't see LeBron too in timeouts like, hey, in these guys' faces, like teaching and stuff like that all the time. Not saying he doesn't, but it's just that's not his type of leadership style. Yeah. Where Patrick Beverley now fits that mold perfect. And I think he's going to have the respect of guys like LeBron and stuff like that too, that when they're not playing hard, or Anthony Davis, if he's jumping on them too, they might get into it. It's Patrick Beverley.
Oh yeah.
But he's also gonna, inspire you or motivate you to go after it too. Like he's not gonna be out there to BS. He's out there to win. So
yeah. Do you see him coming off the bench? Because now, like, he's kind of altered his game where he's literally a legit undersized 3-and-D player. Do you see him like coexisting with LeBron in that lineup, or he comes off the bench and gets subbed out?
I think initially probably coming off the bench. I think if the Lakers could prefer it that way, just doing that. But I think that, like you said, it opens up that rotation where now maybe LeBron can move to more of the 4, especially if Anthony Davis is on the bench, and then Beverley can play that backup point guard, which they did not have last year. Yeah. They were looking for everything. Collison, Augustine, and I mean, Austin Reeves is playing it at one point, but now they have a backup point guard who can control the pace of the game, set the tone defensively.
Okay, so now with Patrick Beverley being in the fold, where do you kind of see if everything goes right? So health is what's most important. Like you said, LeBron's 30. I don't know how the 37 might be 30. I don't know how the hell he's still doing this. We already know about street clothes. But if they play at least 65 games, it's sad to say 65 games nowadays when it's an 82-game season. If they play majority of the games this season, knowing that the West is pretty crazy, how many games, not even how many games, where do you think they kind of finish at? Do you think they're a playoff team now?
I do. I think worst case scenario, it has to be a play-in game. It's like it's sad that I'm even saying that on a team with LeBron and Anthony Davis, but it's going to be just role players. How do they pan out? I mean, last year they went with the approach old guys with experience. Yeah. And I just think right now with how the NBA, the game plays, like that's not the best approach. So this year they went younger with three-point shooters.
Yeah.
So hopefully, that's more of what the game is. I think last year was just like, what are you doing? There's times where you have no one that can shoot on the floor. Teams are double teaming LeBron, just leaving shooters open. So, I think realistically, like 5th seed, 4 or 5.
Okay. Wow.
And the thing is, like, I think it could be higher. I think it could be lower. I think that's like an average. But you don't want to play them in like a 7-game series. Like no one wants to play LeBron in a 7-game series. So even him getting a 5 seed is like, he could still get you to the finals.
Yeah, that's crazy. So do you actually, compared to, I can't even remember, who's you guys' coach last year, the last 2 years? I can't remember his name.
Frank Vogel.
Frank Vogel. So obviously it's like whenever you play with LeBron, like it's championship or bust and whatnot. Obviously he won a ring for you guys his second year. But what are your thoughts on Darvin Ham? Do you think he's going to get the best out of Russell Westbrook this year?
I think he has like just new, fresh perspective, more of a relate in terms of a player he's played. He obviously played a lot of years in the NBA too, so I think there's that. I think Frank Vogel is a great X and O's guy. I just don't, you see him in the huddles. I don't know how much he doesn't command the respect, right? Yeah. That's kind of where I'd see him. And I think that someone similar is like Doc Rivers. So hopefully Darvin Ham can get like that kind of dog Russell Westbrook under control though, right? Like put him on a leash a little bit because I love Russ. It just doesn't match with what they're trying to do with LeBron too. So hopefully he can make some tweaks to that. Gary Payton Jr.
You think it's Scottie Pippen Jr.?
No.
Gary Payton
Jr. on the Warriors when they made that title run.
Yeah.
Westbrook's a better player, but the way that they used him instead of in like setting the pick and rolls and rolling.
Yeah. If
they do that with like LeBron with the ball and Russ rolling, I think that can like open up some different things and like some back cut. There was no motion last year either, so it's gonna be interesting. And I just hope that Russ has worked on the corner 3, catch and shoot corner 3. He doesn't need to be great at it, but he needs to be good enough to where people have to guard it.
Yeah, because I mean, if he's a liability late into the game, that's where I think Patrick Beverley works well in that lineup as well too. And the last thing on this topic as well too, the elephant in the room. Apparently, from what we see, what the media brings to us is the beef that they have, Russell Westbrook and Patrick Beverley. Do you think they kind of put their pride aside, or you think there's going to always be that little form of animosity there the whole time?
I mean, there's always going to be the animosity, hopefully like a healthy level. Like, I mean, I'm just picturing practices right now with Russell
Especially
Westbrook.
Bev getting on
Bev
Russ.
just getting in him, in practice. So, which could be good, right? Like, it can push Westbrook to, perform at another level, kind of step his game up from last year. Hopefully they can put it aside because if they, if the season goes in with this team, we need all the chemistry we can. There was no chemistry last year, so.
Yeah. That's going to be interesting as well, too. And then a lot of people always say, like, all right, well, because they made this move to add in a vet like Patrick Beverley, there may be a possible trade that's going to be looming before training camp. So the trade that they were kind of talking about is with Indiana, with Miles Turner and Buddy Hield for Russell Westbrook. Their contracts pretty much match up. Would you keep Russell Westbrook if you're the GM/coach or owner, or do you try to get a little younger and really get even better fits for LeBron at this age in his career?
I think, man, like I said, I love Russ, but I think just for the team makeup and how it is and how the league is right now, I think probably just if you can make that trade, make it. You're gonna get Buddy Hield, who's a guy that's gonna shoot over 40% from 3, can go off for 30-point games. Miles Turner, get some rim protection. another big. So
And he stretches the
AD
floor too.
He stretches the floor, and also
Mhm.
AD doesn't have to play 5 the whole time because we all know like he doesn't want to. Like just play the 5 and just dominate at it. I don't know why he has a problem with it, but yeah, I mean, I would go for the trade.
Yeah, I would go for the trade as well too. And the thing is, like, we play in the small ball era, so like the only like legit bigs he's going up against is probably with like Jared Allen, Rudy Gobert, Joel Embiid, and Jokic. After that, they're pretty much.
That's why I'm like, I don't know why he doesn't want to be a 5. There's no better time to be an athletic, somewhat shooting 5 than right now.
Yeah, that would make no sense. So NBA schedule officially came out. My question for you is there a matchup in particular out of all the games this year that you're most excited about, and what's that game?
Yeah, just Lakers versus Clippers. Just because it's like, hey, if we're going to
the promo rivalry that we all thought that was going to happen.
Right, and it's been a letdown so far. Obviously, the Lakers got the ship. The Clippers didn't, but man, it's like I'm going in those every time, like battle for LA. I'm sitting on my couch, with my LeBron jersey on. By the end of the game, I'm mad, like want to rip the jersey because I'm just like, they don't even show up.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's just the biggest test. Like, hey, if you can't get up for the Battle of LA, like if we're getting swept by the Clippers again, just like late season, we're probably not gonna make the playoffs.
Yeah,
so it's got to be a better series. So.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I definitely want to check that one out. I'm definitely gonna check that one out. I already told you about the little season pass I got, but I just want to see who's the biggest threat to the Warriors. So I probably have to go with Clippers Warriors as well too, because I think those are the most complete teams in the Western Conference and probably complete teams in the NBA outside of probably the Boston Celtics. So I definitely want to check that out as well too. And I want to see how Kawhi is as well too, because they say when you tear your ACL, your lateral movement kind of goes away from you a little bit, right?
Yeah, a little bit. You see him; he looks big now.
Bro, he looked like Black Superman.
I thought he was going for the next Black Panther or something. What about you? You think the Warriors are the team, the favorites?
I mean, you got to give them their respect and whatnot as well too. I think with Boston getting going through that experience, all of them being there for the first time, and then adding some depth to the roster. I think they signed with Danilo Gallinari, and they also signed Malcolm Brogdon. Got the trade from Malcolm Brogdon.
Yeah.
I have them being a threat, the Bucks being a threat, and then the Clippers being a threat. Outside of that, I don't really see any other team that's going to really fuck with them like that. But I think the team to beat, the formula to beat them, I think it's the Clippers.
Okay.
I think it's the Clippers.
I think so too.
Yeah, I'm a little biased a little bit too.
But they got all the depth, and they got all the guys like you would want on the Lakers. Like, hey, why didn't we go for John Wall?
Exactly.
So.
And that's why I don't like the idea of having these quote unquote super teams. Because now you have Kawhi and PG who are making max dollars. Then after that, you can literally just spend all of your money on high level role players, and then you get a buyout like a John Wall.
Yeah.
Well, you got 3 of you guys making $47 million each, so you have no money left over to get anybody that's somewhat decent.
Just minimums. And whoever you drafted, but they're all gone now, too.
Yeah. And I always think about, like, damn, like you guys had what? Randall, Ingram, Caruso, Kuzma, all of them. You guys are basically what Memphis is now. That's what you guys should have been right now.
That's actually crazy. I was just talking with my dad. So I went back to Utah this past weekend. We're driving to the airport, and we're just talking NBA talk. And he said the same thing. He's like, I look at Memphis right now, and he's like, that's what the Lakers should be like. Obviously you take away the shit, but that's what you look like going forward for the next, 5 to 10 years. And then you just said it. Now I'm mad. 'Cause but I know. I look back on that, and it's like, obviously you got the ship. You can't take away a ship. It's there. It's history.
Disney Plus trophy.
But yeah, there's an asterisk, I guess. But hey, but with that asterisk, everyone was hooping in the bubble. So
Facts.
I mean, the Lakers came through. Why was everyone else not there? But yeah, man, that's sad. We traded everyone, and we would have had a team where it's like you got 10 guys that we would have drafted that are really good.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's human nature being in that environment from being little up until now. You're always playing in front of fans. So, I mean, I know you can't really relate to because you didn't play during that time. But you think there was some players who like really thrive off of the crowd's energy, and that kind of didn't.
Yeah.
That kind of affected their performance on the court.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think guys kind of like even like Giannis and stuff like that too, where those power dunks he has, crazy dunks that normally the crowd would either be crazy or silent, just nothing, no reaction. So you're like, that's weird, dunking in an open gym. And I think that's why you see guys like Chris Middleton was really going off. TJ Warren.
Bubble tea.
Because, I mean, these guys are looking like – these are guys that you see, and they don't really talk anyways, so they're just silent killers. So they're like, this is my environment. I'm back in an empty gym. No one – it doesn't matter what the crowd's doing. So it's just kind of funny to see that adjustment. Then you have guys like obviously LeBron's just LeBron. So LeBron's LeBron anywhere. Empty gym, in front of anyone, in front of Olympics, it's LeBron. So
that moment we will always remember that moment. Like 2020, right there, smack in the middle. Lakers getting the trophy, Bron. So we kind of talked about homegrown teams. One question I have for you is, if you're a GM/owner, which route would you go? What do you think is better? What do you think is the most viable option in this era of the NBA? Building a team with the draft picks, kind of homegrown like the Memphis Grizzlies or like the Golden State Warriors, or kind of creating that super team atmosphere where you're signing free agents or you're making these top tier trades, kind of like the KG era with the Celtics, what the Lakers did with AD, what they're kind of doing with Kawhi and PG and the Clippers, and like the Brooklyn Nets as well too. Which route would you take?
Oh man. It kind of depends on the team and location. But if I had to just choose one, I would just go homegrown, just draft them. I mean, we're in an era where every year they're like, hey, the draft's kind of weak this year. And then what happens is these guys go play and they're really good because, like I was talking about earlier, the skill gap. I mean, just the ceiling of skills. Like, they're all pretty close to their ceiling, like going to the NBA. You kind of know who people are going to be, most part, going into the NBA. So the fact of, like, hey, it's maybe a little easier to draft now in terms of, like, hey, you don't have to get the top 3 guys. Like, the top 30 guys can come in and contribute, even if it's not a star player. It can be a role player, like someone like Josh Hart, stuff like that. So all you got to do is hit, and those, like, let's say a 10-year span, you got to hit the lottery or the lottery ticket 3 times, maybe twice to 3 times, and then just build and do your contracts and everything right, sign veterans, get some veteran leadership, and you can build a team like that. So.
Yeah, because you're at least going to have these players for at least 5 to 6 years as well too. When they sign that rookie extension as well, it just sucks because, like, no disrespect, like, who wants to stay in these smaller marketplaces like a Portland, like Utah? You know, like, say it's hard, so you really have to luck up in the draft as well too. I mean, to answer your question, I would probably take your route where we kind of draft and then just try your best. We've seen what happened with the San Antonio Spurs, tank, and then you just luck up and whatnot, get a strong culture in there as well too. But if you have a chance to get someone, definitely go get someone as well too. I feel like a lot of these small market teams, if you don't have that homegrown star, you're only going to get like an all-star caliber player, maybe like a Bradley Beal or like a Drew Holiday, but you're never going to get that dog that wants to come play in those cities that are kind of named as well too. So that's always something interesting and always something I think about.
Yeah, I agree.
Another question I have for you, just want to throw a couple out there since it's still a little dry in the NBA season.
Yeah.
With it being a small ball era, I'm curious with your opinions, like, how do you see Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns kind of working in tandem this upcoming season? What are your expectations for their team, the Minnesota Timberwolves?
I think team expectations, they were scary last year. I was looking at them in the playoffs. Like,
they should have beat Memphis.
Yeah, they should have, honestly. And none of their games come on TV, so you can't watch them. That's why they're even scarier, because then all of a sudden you're like, okay, Anthony Edwards is legit. They got D'Angelo Russell, should have been on the Lakers still, but he's a solid point guard. He's not. I don't think he's the hype that everyone thought he was going to be. He's still deloading, still loading. But Karl-Anthony Towns has become probably the best big man shooter, and he's also athletic. He can take out the dribble. He's a good defender. Then they just added Gobert, like you're saying. So now you have that rim presence. They made that, just rebounder inside that's going to go after every rebound, try to block everything. Them playing together, I think it works because Karl-Anthony Towns can spread the floor so well. And then I think what it also does is, too, late game, if teams are trying to pick and roll Rudy Gobert like they do to pick on him, now you can just move Cat to the 5. And if Gobert has to go to the bench, you didn't lose any size. You're still bigger than most teams out there. So I think it'll be a little bit interesting trying to get them to fit initially. But I think what's going to be is Cat shooting a lot more threes to start the game, and then as Gobert subs out, then they'll move him just into the post.
Interesting. To think a guy that's making the super max is signing up like, yo, if you getting picked on, you're making like $47 million a year, you're gonna be on the bench. Like, that's kind of crazy. But you got that bread. So, that's pretty interesting. And one thing I was always curious about was, like, with Rudy Gobert's frame and how he's just the defensive prowess, it's just weird how like we never see him take that next leap to expand his game as well too. Because I thought with how the league's going, he was going to be a guy that even you see with 8 now, he's having a little mid range jumper and whatnot, or sometimes with the corner 3 and whatnot. So I guess my question for you is like, what's your opinion on players working on skills in the off season when they're kind of not asked to as role players on their team?
Yeah, I think you have to. I mean, if you're fine with being pigeonholed into your role and never being more, like just be great at your role. But
like, do you think these do you think these coaches are going to these players, their trainers are going to these players and like, all right, hey, this is what I want you to work on this offseason. Like, I don't want you to expand on anything. Just play your role to a T.
I think to some extent, I think it happens a little bit, but I think that, it could also just be a system fit. You see a guy, I mean, like Karl-Anthony Towns, for example, when he was at Kentucky, gets to the NBA, like, why are you outside the 3-point line? Oh, he shoots 40%. He's winning 3-point contests, but that's just not what he was asked to play. So where I'm going with that is like Gobert. I don't know because we haven't seen it, but hey, what if he goes to Minnesota and they allow him to shoot a 15-foot jump shot? What if he can? We don't know. But I guess going back to just you as a player, your goal every offseason is just like, hey, what are my weaknesses? What are my strengths? Let me just sharpen my strengths a little more, but also just at one of my weaknesses, I have to get better at it. I think what's worse than guys working on something more is guys that don't expand their game.
Yeah.
So a Rudy Gobert, like we haven't seen him do anything. Can he make a hook shot? I don't know. Can Ben Simmons shoot a 15-foot jumper? Like you've been in the league for 6 years now? Like that's or a free throw. You know what I mean? So, So my question is like, not why are they working on stuff they're not going to use? Why are they not working on stuff that they just should get better at? Because like it's mental, and then it's also just work ethic too.
Yeah, and then that just gets exposed and it gets shown up in the playoffs as well too. They exploit your weaknesses as well. Yeah. So last topic of the day I have for you that's not really on our itinerary, but we're around the same age, so you've seen different eras of basketball. What is your favorite era? The shooting small ball era, the positionless era, or kind of like that old school early 2000s up until like 2009, 2010 era?
Yeah. Me personally, probably more now shooting positionless, just because that's kind of what I was.
Yeah, it's that play.
Yeah, I grew up just shooting, and then it was like oh, you're a 1. And then it was like I got to college, and they're like, oh, now you're a 2. And then I got further into college, I kept growing. Now you're 3, now you're 4. I played some 5 at D1 level, which is crazy. So to me, it's like, hey, if you can play every position and know how to contribute to your team at that position, go. I think also, too, it's cool to be able to see. I think now is a time where we can see the skill of the offensive players the most, too, because, like, you're not throwing it to Shaq every time. Like, obviously, if Shaq's in there, you're giving the ball. But we're not running it through like a big stiff guy in the post, and we're not saying, hey, it's got to touch the post twice and then a kick out 3. It's just like, hey, let's just go hoop. Now there's space everywhere. You see now defensive guys like your guy Kawhi and everything, Giannis. Now you're really seeing what they can do in floor space because now they're having to guard multiple positions.
Facts.
So it's leading to more transition dunks. They need to get rid of the take foul. They have to get rid of the take foul because I'm like, hey, as an NBA fan, it's frustrating when you get someone like even LeBron out there or Paul George. We've seen what he can do. Anthony Edwards, you get him on a break, and then you're like, oh, and then he gets fouled. It's like, what? But no, I think this era is my favorite.
Yeah.
What about you?
Nah, I have to agree. You literally, the spacing was bad back in the day. Like I was watching the Spurs versus Pistons game 7 the other day. I think they only scored like 70 points. I was like, what?
I think I know which one you're talking about too.
I was like, what's going on? But yeah, I definitely love the pacing, the speed, everything of the game, honestly. So I wouldn't change a thing. So shout out to Steph Curry for literally changing the game, which is ridiculous as well too. So that was episode 118. Any closing remarks?
No, biggest thing is I appreciate you guys having me on here. Love the show. Just love that you're talking about these topics. Appreciate being on here, and that's the biggest thing. I like the sweater too.
Yes, sir. We got some new merch on the way, so I'll definitely hit you up about that pretty soon.
Yeah, let me know. I'm gonna cop one.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Grayson Moore. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. That was episode 118 of The Seezus Show. Make sure to subscribe on all forms of social media at The Seezus Show, at Sir Seezus. We out.